12 individuals with personal testimonies that will blow your mind. Dealing with issues like bullying, abusive relationships, cutting, STDs, pornography, suicide, self-esteem issues, broken homes, identity issues, teen pregnancy, drug and alcohol addiction. This is our story.
It's great having role models and seeing people who go through the same things that we do and share how they overcame.
There's diversity. It speaks about the things that are impacting people now.
The acting, the dancing, everything is superb.
I think it's really important to share these stories that a lot of people don't want to talk about in a really creative way.
You know, as a school administrator, it's great to see young people sending such a positive message, and it's a great intervention.
We are Epic Assemblies, the premier assembly for your school. Be a part of a movement that broadens borders, stretches the imagination, and provokes a generation to fight for their lives. This is Epic Assemblies, the premier assembly for your school.
The reason that we do this is because we want to bring a message of hope to young people that they don't have to live a life of low standards, but believe that they can make better choices with better results for their future. Derek and I were teenagers when we had the first of 4 abortions. And how could we have ever known that the pain of our decisions in our vulnerable years would still be impacting our family decades later? We want to give life a chance because we now know that it's worth fighting for.
Growing up in my home was constant war. I come from a family of 8, 7 of us are girls, and there's 1 boy. And a family size that big is very easy for you to get lost in the crowd. And it wasn't so much about me trying to be who I was, but way much more about me not knowing who I was. So when I went to high school, I thought to myself, this will be cool, you know, get away from my family, it should be good. But what ended up happening was, it was just a bigger war. And eventually I got to a point in high school where I felt absolutely nothing. And it was at that moment that I just said to myself, something has to give. And it wasn't until maybe the end of my sophomore year that I decided to stop trying to be somebody that I'm not, to just own up to the fact that I knew who I was. And I've realized that it's not so much about you trying to find who you are, but much more about you just accepting who you are.
In 9th grade, I got introduced to porn. I was addicted for 3 years, and it almost ruined my life. In 10th grade, I got into a relationship with a girl. She was about a year younger than me, so I got to do whatever I said. It wasn't good. Finally, we broke up, but the damage was already done. So in high school, I tried to stay away from girls as much as possible. I'm doing this tour to encourage young guys and girls, stay away from this drug called porn. It will truly ruin your life.
Growing up, my dad was a drug dealer and abusive towards my mom. This caused a divorce between them when I was a freshman, and because of their divorce, my mom got into a toxic relationship and she started doing and selling drugs. And due to that, she started to neglect me and my younger siblings. And around the same time, my dad was caught selling drugs and was given 15 years. Growing up around this caused me to be ashamed, and I covered up my pain and my feelings, and I stuffed down everything, and too deep that I started to become numb to feelings. And Really, it was my silence that was killing me. But I challenge you young people, if you're going through what I went through in a broken home, that you take off your mask and you tell somebody about what you're going through. We can learn from their mistakes and we can do better and be better. I'm choosing to be better.
When I was in high school, I basically found my identity through social media. I really wanted the other girls to basically label me as pretty, popular, cool. So I put aside my morals and my standards just to fit in. I spent hours on Instagram trying to become what I saw on a screen. I was comparing myself and I just lived for other people's approval. I was fooling myself into believing that other people's lives were much better than my own. I realized that I'm unique and that's okay.
I grew up on the south side of Tucson, and it wasn't one of the best places, and friends at a young age weren't the best examples. During my middle school and part of my high school years, I suffered from a lot of rejection, loneliness, and bullying from my peers, and also verbal abuse from my parents. This caused me to have suicidal tendencies and ultimately attempt suicide. On my last attempt, my friend managed to call me just in time before I plunged a knife into my chest. That phone call saved my life, and now I want to use my life in hope to save another.
I come from a family of 4 that has been broken up by alcoholism and my dad choosing to be with his friends than be with us. That resulted to him leaving. And in his absence, my mother and I had to fill all financial voids and make ends meet. I couldn't deal with the pain straight on. So therefore I had resulted to alcoholism and feeling a void of sorrow that I had within. But one day I came to a realization that I can be better, that I don't have to be like my dad. And so I had decided that I can break down the walls of alcoholism in my life.
3 years ago, I broke my neck dancing. Doctors told me, had it been one vertebrae off, I'd have died. So I spent 3 months in a neck brace and 2 months in physical therapy. After that, I worked hard and trained every day. In the following year, I was sent to India to perform and teach dance. I'm here to encourage you to hold on to your dreams and to never give up.
I kind of fell into a really unhealthy relationship with a guy, to the point of where I pretty much worshipped him. I let his criticisms and opinions really just shape who I was. I started dressing a certain way to please him. I went way further physically than I ever thought I would, and I even gave up like a lot of my dreams and my passions because I just desperately wanted to make him happy. And I also found out after the fact that he had been falling back into porn on and off throughout our relationship, which hurt a lot to hear after that. But through the pain and working through all that after we had broken up, I really have been able to like find who I am again. And now I know that I will not put my identity in a man.
When I was 3, I started to have seizures and I was diagnosed with a brain disease. I was placed in special ed classes and bullied all throughout my school years due to being in these classes. They said I would never be successful and I would never finish school on time. But I chose to try harder. You see, when I was diagnosed with the brain disease, they said I would never be able to talk again. But look at me now. I chose to never give up, and I encourage each and every one of you out there to do the same exact thing. You see, that thing that you are most challenged in today could be the same exact thing that you were gifted in tomorrow.
I used to be what people call a bully. You see, I became so insensitive to other people's emotions, and it was because I was so hurt deep down. My parents divorced when I was young, so I felt like I had to grow up fast. I was hurt, I was lonely, I bottled up my emotions, and I began to take that out on other people. And then one day I realized that I could be different, and change started to happen. And a lot of so-called friends turned their back on me. And funny thing is, one of the people I bullied became one of my best friends. So I'm here to encourage people to love everybody, regardless of their differences.